In this tutorial, we will understand a very important interview topic, which is printing different star patterns programmatically. So star patterns like square, right triangle, downward triangle, pyramid, diamond, and so on. There are so many other star patterns. I'll not be able to cover all of them in this tutorial, but I'll give a clear idea so that you feel much comfortable in writing code to print most of the patterns. Also, as I said, this is very important interview topic. Doesn't matter if you are a student, if you are a fresher, entry-level candidate, or an experienced programmer. These kind of questions are asked specially to evaluate your clarity and understanding on loops. So I request you to pay attention throughout this tutorial, take notes, write code along with me, and whenever and wherever required, just pause the video to get best out of this tutorial. Also, prerequisite to understand the logic to print all these patterns is in-depth understanding of nested loops. So nested loops, which we call inner loops as well. So I'll give you an idea of nested loops as well, and then we will build our observation and intuition required to print all such patterns. So let's start with the nested loops first. So what are nested loops? A loop or loops inside another loop is known as nested loop. For example, and this is our outer loop, and a loop inside this outer loop is nested loops. So this concept is known as nested loops. So let's understand its execution step by steps before moving ahead. So in order to save some time, I have already taken an example over here. So for example, this is our outer loop and this is our inner loop. And this is the concept of nested loop. Now, the very important thing is we have to understand its execution, how nested loops are being executed. So that is very important to understand. So for example, if you can see over here, outer loop is starting from 1 going till 5. And similarly, the inner loop is getting started with 1 and it's also going up to 5, but its execution is very important. So for example, how it will execute: when our outer loop starts, that means it start with 1, then in that case the complete iteration cycle of inner loop will get executed for single iteration of outer loop. What I mean is, if value of I is 1, if first iteration of outer loop is getting executed, then complete iteration cycle of inner loop will be executed, which is the complete iteration starting from 1 going till 5 will be executed for our inner loop. So for example, if our first iteration is starting for the outer loop, then all the values, all the steps in the inner loop will be executed. The for inner loop values are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So once this complete iteration cycle is completed for one loop, sorry, for one iteration, then value of I will be incremented and we will go to 2, and again the complete iteration cycle will be executed for inner loop. That means we will again go from 1 to 5, which is, if value of I is 2, then we will again start the inner loop from 0 and will go up to 5. And once all these values are printed, that means an entire cycle is completed. The value of I will be increased and it will become 3, and we will again start from 1 and will go up to 5. Similarly, all values of j will be executed and then value of I will be increased. It will become 4 and value of j will again be printed from 1 to 5. Similarly, we will go up to n. Doesn't matter if in our case it's 5 and it may go up to n. So I'll take n as an example, and similarly all the iteration for inner loop will be executed 1 to 5. What I mean is, when we are reaching up to 5, again we are executing all the values of inner loop. So what does it mean? It means a complete iteration cycle of inner loop is a single iteration for its outer loop. That means the complete iteration cycle of this loop is a single iteration for its outer loop. Now let's switch over to the VS Code and we'll see the execution of each step by executing the value or by printing its value on console. So I have already taken a class over here and created an inner loop, and what I'll do to print the value on console, we'll put a out statement over here, and with respect to the outer loop we'll also print the inner loop values. Let me execute it. So as you can see over here, when value of I is 1, j is getting printed from 1 to 5. Similarly, when I is 2, value is getting printed up to 5. When I is 3, value is getting printed up to 5. So that means we are going up to n and all the values of inner loop is getting printed. For better understanding, let me take one another example. For example, I want to print years and their respective months. So what I'll do, let's say I want to print values from year 2020 to 2022, and we will print all their months. So let me replace it with actual text. Let's say these are our years. Let me remove it from here. And then the value of j, let's say it's months. Months. And let's say these are our months. And again, I'll remove it from here. So let me put some space over here so that we have a proper indentation on console. Uh, when we get our output, also the values of month will start from 1 and we will go up to 12. Let's see the output on console now. So as you can see over here, we have 12 months for 2020. Again, year will be increased from this I, we will be in 2021 and all the months will be printed, and then we'll go up to 2022, which is our termination condition, and all the months will be executed. That means, again, let me repeat, the complete iteration of this inner loop is a single iteration for its outer loop. With that said, I hope you got a clear understanding of inner loops. So now based on it, let's build our observation and let's understand the star pattern problems. I have already taken an example over here. This is our 5 by 5 square. And if you have such problems, or you have to build your logic to print such patterns, so what you have to do, the very first thing is you have to divide it into rows and columns. So all these are our rows, as you can clearly see over here, and all these are our columns. Since it's 5 by 5 matrix, so we have 5 rows and 5 columns. So let me name it properly. This is our first row, this is second, this is third, this is our fourth row, and this is our fifth row. Similarly, this is our first column, this one is second, third, fourth, and fifth. So let me name it properly. These are our rows and these are our columns. So now we have divided this problem into rows and columns. So let me tell you the naming convention as well. I mean the dimensions and the proper cell address as well. So this is our very first cell. Here row is 1, column is 1. So what will be the address of this cell? What will be the location of this cell? It will be 1 and 1, which means first row and first column. And what is the value inside this cell? It's star. Similarly, what will be the address of this row? This will be our third row and third column. So the address of this row will be 3, 3. And what is the value inside this row? It's star. Again, what will be the address of this cell? It's fifth row and fourth column. So what should be its address? Fifth row and fourth column. What will be the value inside this cell? It's star. Now, as you can clearly see over here, for the first row, we have to print 5 stars. We will print first star, second, third, fourth, and fifth in a sequence. Once we are at fifth location, I mean at fifth column, then we will throw our cursor into the next line. And then the we will be in the second row, and again we will start printing one by one till when? Till we reaches the end of our columns. So once all 5 columns are printed, we will throw our cursor into the next line, and we will repeat this process until we are done with our condition. So that means in our very first row, we should have 5 star printed. And we have understood from our inner loops the complete iteration cycle of this inner loop is a single iteration for its outer loop. So that means if our value of I is 1, then what we have to do? We have to completely iterate our inner loop. So that means if I will print my star over here, then for 1, all iterations of this inner loop will be done, and then we will go to the next loop. So what are the different iteration? What are the 5 iteration? When the value of I is 1, 1 will be printed, sorry, first iteration will be executed, and then we will be into this inner loop, and inner loop will start with 1. 1 is less than 5, condition is true, we will go into our code block and we will print our star. Once this star is printed, the value of j will be incremented, and the value of j was 1 earlier, the value will be incremented to 2, and 2 is less than 5, condition true, the code block will be executed, we will again print our star. So again the value of j will be incremented, it will be 3, 3 is less than 5, condition is true, we will again print star. So value of j will be incremented, the value of j will be 4, 4 is less than 5, condition true, we will go into the code block, we will print our star, and then we will again increment our j value, the value of j will become 5, and we will again print our star. Now the value of j will be incremented again, value will become 6, and 6 is less than 5. No, it's not. So if it's not less than 5, we will be out from our loop. So that means for the very first row, for the very first row, all the values of star are printed. Now, once we have printed all these 5 stars, what we have to do? We have to throw our cursor into the next line. So to throw cursor into the next line, what we will do? We will simply put a print ln statement over here. So what print ln statement will do? It will throw our cursor into the next line, means once this entire text is completed, so next text will be printed in next line. So I hope you know the difference between print and println. Print will keep adding text into the same row, like we have printed 5 stars, 1 star, again next star, 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 star. We are not throwing cursor into the next line for this complete iteration. But once this complete iteration is done, we are out of this loop. We are throwing cursor into the next line using this println statement. Now again, once we are out of this loop, we have thrown our cursor into the next line. The value of I will be incremented and the value of I will be 2. So that means we are in the second iteration now. So again, same process will be repeated. We will go into the inner loop. The value of j will start from 1. 1 is less than 5. Condition true. We will go into the code block and we will print our star. Now value of j will be incremented and it will become 2. So 2 is less than 5. Yes, condition true. We will go into the code block and we will print star again. So as you can clearly see over here, we are just using print. Print is not throwing this cursor into the next line. We are printing the text in the same line. So once this star is printed, value of j will be incremented from here and it will become 3. 3 is less than 5. Our star will be printed. J will be incremented and value of j will become 4. And we will print the next star over here. Once this star is printed, value of j will be incremented and it will be 5, and we will print the star again. So value of j will be incremented to 6, it will become 6, and 6 is less than 5. We will return from here. That means we are done with this inner loop execution for this cycle, and we are here in the next line. Next line is println, and println is throwing the cursor into the next line. So similarly, once we are done with entire code process, the value of I will be incremented and the value of I will be increased to 3. And now we are in the third iteration. Again, complete cycle of this inner loop will be executed like we did for the first and second iteration. And then once we are done, we are in the out of this inner loop, we will print ln, means we are printing throwing our cursor into the next line. Value of I will be increased and we are at fourth iteration. Once we are at fourth iteration, all the values will be incremented and complete iteration cycle will again get executed. Once we are done, we are in the println statement over here and we are in the next iteration, fifth, and all the values will be printed and value of I will be incremented over here and it will become 6 after printing all these values. And then condition will be checked. If 6 is less than equal to 5, no, it's not. So that means we will return from here and we are out of this process. So that means our square has been printed. So let me show you VS Code as well. So for example, I have already created a method with name square, and what I'll do over here, I'll pass the size means how many stars I want to print, what will be the square size. What I'm doing over here, I'll start from 1 and whatever size I will provide, that means whatever n, whatever the termination condition will I provide, I'll go up to that location. It will not be less than, it should always be exactly equal to the size, and then I'll keep incrementing the loop, and again I'll put the inner loop for each star pattern. Let me start it with j. It will again be equal to size because we are printing a square, and and j plus plus. And what you have to print, we are printing star over here. So just to keep a small difference, I'll put a space over here so that we can keep all stars at specific uh, distance. And now let me move the cursor into the next line. That's it. So once we are done with all the logic, we have completed everything, whatever is needed to get our stars printed. So the next step is to call this method. And to call this method, what I'll do, I'll just call it and we'll give the size of the square. And since it's not static and I'm calling it into the same class, I have to keep it static so that I don't need to create the object of this class to call this square method. So I kept it static, and now let's execute it. Okay, the mistake I have done over here, everything is getting thrown into the next line, but it should be in the same line. So keep in mind, it should always be in the same line. Let me execute it again. So here you go. So I hope it's clear now what you have to do to get square printed using your Java program. So let's move on to the next problem. Our next problem is to print right triangle. So right triangle is almost similar to our square with only difference that all these stars were replaced by space over here. So that means we don't have to print anything over here in these empty cells. So what was our approach? The very first thing is we have to divide this pattern into rows into columns. So let's say these are our rows and these are our columns. So let's say this is our first row, this is our second row, this is our third row, this is fourth row, and this is our fifth row. Similarly, this is our first column, this is our second column, this one is third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, so the next thing is just identify the location of each star. So what is the location of this star? This is 1, 1, because this is at first row and first column. So first row and first column. So what is the location of this star? 1, 1. Similarly, what is the location of this star? It will be 3, 2, because this is at third row and second column. So now, if you can see over here, if we are at the first row means we are denoting rows with I. If we are at first row, the total number of stars that we are printing is 1. So that means the total number of stars that we are printing is 1, which is only 1 star. And total number of columns that we are printing, that is also 1. And let's say we are denoting our columns with J, so total number of columns are also 1. Now we will move to the next iteration. The next iteration will be our second iteration, which is our second row in this case, and total number of stars that we are printing is exactly 2. So total stars that we are printing is exactly 2. And now, how many columns are we printing? Again, we are printing 2 columns. So we will move to the third row. And now in the third row, what we have to do? We have to print these 3 stars. So if we have to print these 3 stars, we will be in the next iteration, which is our third iteration. And the total number of stars that we have to print are 3 star. Again, move on. You will be in the fourth row. Also in the here the total number of columns will be 3, and in the fourth row again we are printing 4 stars. And how many total columns are we printing? We are printing 4 columns. And same goes for the fifth row, and we are printing 5 stars in the fifth row as well. So one thing that you have to clearly notice over here, the total number of stars that are getting printed are exactly equal to the row number. So that is, if We are at first row, total number of stars getting printed are 1 only, and the value of j will be 1 because we are printing one column only. And if we are moving to the second iteration, the total number of stars are getting printed are 2, and also we are printing 2 columns only. Now if we are moving ahead, total number of stars that we are printing are exactly equal to 3, and we are filling 3 columns, and these are our 3 columns. Same goes for fourth and fifth iteration. So that means our column size, or on the number of rows that we are printing with respect to our columns, are exactly equal to row number. So that means if our row size is 1, total number of inner loops should be executed one time only. And if our outer loop is incrementing, that means if we are in the second iteration for outer loop, the total cycles of inner loop should be 2 only. And then if we are moving to the third iteration, total number of inner loop should be 3 only. So one more time, I would like to say the number of inner loop are exactly equal to the number of outer loop per iteration. So that means what change we have to make over here, we just have to replace this 5 with I. That's the only change we have to make over here. Let me do a quick dry run for you. So when we are in the first iteration means we are in the outer loop, and outer loop is denoting number of rows. So I, which is denoting our rows, when we are in the very first iteration, which is our 1, so 1 is less than 5, condition will be true, and we will enter into our code block. And this code block means we are in the nested loop now. So this will start from 1 to 5. So j will be exactly equal to or less than I. What is the value of I? This is 1 for first iteration. So j will go from 1. 1 is less than 1. No, 1 is exactly equal to 1. So condition will be true, and we will enter into this code block. And what this code block is doing, it is printing our star. So that means we will print star. So now again the value of j will be incremented, and the value of j will go to 2. So we'll see if 2 is less than or exactly equal to I. What is the value of I? I is still 1. So that means the condition is false, and we will be out from this loop, and we will be in the next line. What our next line is doing, next line is just throwing cursor into the next line. Okay, so now this code block is completely executed. So we will again go to the outer loop, and our in our outer loop value of I will be increased to 2. Now we will start from 2. 2 is less than equal to 5. Yes, condition is true. Now we will be again into the inner loop, and this value will be reset. It will again start from 1. So what will be the value? 1 is less than I is 2. So 1 is less than 2, condition true. We will be in the code block, we will print this star. Again the value of j will be incremented, the value of j will become 2. 2 is less than equal to 2. Yes, condition is true. Now we will print this star. The value of j will be incremented, the value of j will become 3. So 3 is less than equal to 2. No, condition is false. That means we are now again out of this inner loop, and we are into this line now. So what it is doing, it is throwing our cursor into the next line. So entire code block is executed. We are again into the outer loop. Value of I will be incremented to 3. And now 3 is less than equal to 5. Yes, we will enter into the code block, and value of j will be reset to 0 again, and we will start our iteration from 0 to 3. for the first, sorry, from 1 to 3. For the first time, it will print star. Value of j will be incremented to 2. Again, it will print star. Value will be incremented to 3. It will print star. Value will be incremented to 4. So 4 is less than or equal to 3. Condition will be false. We will be out from this loop. We are here, and this will print our next line. Similarly, we'll keep going up to total number of rows. So this is how the execution of this program will go. So let's switch over to the VS Code, and we'll see the output on console. Okay, so what I will do, firstly, let me create a method, public static, so that I don't have to create the object. And what I am printing over here, let me keep the return type as void. And what I'll do, I am printing right triangle. And how many rows will I provide? That is up to user, and similarly goes for total number of columns. So what I'll do, I'll take two loops over here. I'll start my row from 1, and I will go exactly equal to total number of rows, and I will keep incrementing I. Same goes for inner loop. Let me start it with j less than and exactly equal to total number of columns. No, it should not be. It should increase exactly equal to the number of rows. So that means this should be I and j plus plus. That's the only difference over here. This out, and what we are printing? We are printing star over here. Once we are out of this iteration, let me put the cursor into the next line. Sorry, j is starting from 1. That's the only difference. What's our next step? Next step is to call this function. So how can we call this function? Function name total number of rows and total number of columns. So do we need this column over here? Are we using this column variable? So let's see. Let me execute this program first. If you can see, I again did the same mistake. It should be print instead of println. If you can see over here, this is our shape. So but are we using this column over here? No, because we are not increasing the column value. Column values are getting increased with respect to rows. So I can remove it from here. Just remove it from the calling part as well. That's pretty much it. So we are done. This is how we can print a right triangle. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. So what you have to do, take pen and paper, just try to dry run each and every step, and I'm damn sure you will definitely get it, and you will never ever forget it in future. So let's move on to the next problem. So our next problem is printing pyramid. So I have two pyramids over here. The only difference between both of these pyramid is the total number of columns that we are printing per iteration. So over here in the second iteration, we have two columns only, two stars only. And in the second iteration over here, we are printing 3 star. And then we are printing 3 star in the third iteration, but in the third iteration over here we are printing 5 stars. So that's the only difference between these two pyramids. But we have to build our intuition and observation so that we can meet both of our requirements. So why I have taken this right triangle over here, because this is very much similar to our pyramid. How we have total number of rows 5 over here. Similarly, we have total number of rows 5 in pyramid, and over here as well. The total number of columns in right triangle is 5, and over here also we have total number of column as 5, but here it's increasing. So we will see how can we print this scenario as well. So that means if we have rows, if we have columns, so we need two loops. That means our first loop, like our previous problem, it will print rows and it will print columns. But over here, if you can see, we have a space over here, but we don't have space here. And the scenario is similar. We are printing one star over here, we are printing one star. Here we have two stars, we are printing two stars over here. So everything is similar. The only thing is we have to put our space over here. So how to identify that space? How much space do I need? If I start from first row, how will I identify how much space do I need? It's very difficult for me. Similarly for 2 as well. For 3 and 4, we cannot identify. But yes, if we go to the last row, at the very last row, we can clearly see the star is at the leftmost corner. We don't have any space over here. So which means, can we start identifying our space from very last row? That means we will start from 5, and at 5 we don't have any space. So if we are moving upward, that means if I move over to the fourth iteration, the number of space I need is 1. Similarly, if I go to the third iteration, the number of space I need is 2, 1 and 2. And for the second iteration, number of spaces are 3. And for the first iteration, the total number of spaces are 4. So that means with iterations, the space is decreasing. So how will we identify this 4? So 4, we have total number of iteration 5. So how will I identify that at the very first row I need 4 spaces? So what I am doing, I am subtracting my current iteration from total number of rows. So if you can see over here, total number of rows are 5 and current iteration is 1. And over here also, total number of rows are 5 and current iteration is 2. Over here, total number of rows are 3. Sorry, total number of rows are 5 and current iteration is 3. Similarly, 5 minus current iteration is 4. 5 minus 0. So we'll get 0 over here, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So what is this 5? These are total number of rows. And what are these numbers over here? These are current iteration. So we are subtracting our current iteration from total number of rows. So that means the space which we need over here is current row minus I. Before printing this star, I need some spaces over here. So which is clear, I have to insert something over here. What do I need to insert? That is space. And how much space do I need? I need to uh, insert 4 spaces in the first iteration, 3 in the second, 2 in the last iteration. So how can I do that? I can do that with the help of loop as well. So let's say my space starts from 1, and what will be the total space? Space will be equal to whatever formula we have. Based on it, we will identify our space. So that is row minus 1, and space will increase. And now what we will do? We will print this space. That's it. So in the very first iteration, when I will be 1, what will be the space size? It will be total number of rows minus 1. So we will have 4 spaces over here. So that's what we needed. So let's switch over to the VS Code. So what I'll do for this pyramid, I'll copy paste the same code from right triangle. I don't want to waste time in typing the code again and again, and I just need space before the star. So what I'll do, I'll take another loop for space. We'll start from 1, space will go till where? Row minus I, and sorry, space plus plus. That's what we need. And what we have to print, we have to print space over here. So I have just put some space over here. It's the only change we need. Let me execute this program. I don't need println, again the same mistake. So this is my pyramid 1. Let me increase the size of this pyramid so that we have a clear picture. And this is how we can print our pyramid. So let me do a quick dry run how it's getting printed. What I'll do, I'll copy paste the same code from here. We are starting from first iteration. That means the value of I is 1. Then what we are doing, we are executing the complete iteration cycle of this loop, which will go from 1 to total number of rows. It was 5 in our case, minus I, it will be 4. Minus 1, it will be 4. So what it will do, it will keep executing 4 times. That means 1, 2, 3, 4. What it's printing? Spaces. So I have put 4 spaces, and then we are out of this loop and we will enter into the next loop. Next loop will go from where? From 1 to I. What is the value of I? It's 1. So what it's doing? It's printing star over here, and we will print star. What are we doing then? What is next? Next we are coming over here and it's throwing our cursor into next line. So that means we don't have to worry about the trailing spaces. So now we are in the second iteration. The value of I will be increased to 2, and again we will start from 1 to 5 minus 2, 1 to 3. So how much spaces will we print? 1, 2 and 3. And then once all these spaces are printed, we will be out of loop and we will again be in the second loop. And a second loop will again start from 1 and it will go up to where? Up to 2. 2 is our I. So that means firstly it will print I, and then again 1 star. And then we are in the sysout statement, which is throwing our cursor into the next line. So our I will be incremented to 3, and how much spaces will we print now? 5 minus 3, which is 2. So we will print 2 spaces and then 3 stars over here, because we are going from 1 to 3, 3 star over there. Similarly for the next iteration, and for the last one, how much spaces are we printing? I minus I, oh sorry, row minus I, which is 5 minus 5. If we are in the first final iteration, there will be no space. So this is how this program will get executed. So I hope this is quite clear now. Let's switch over to the another problem. In the pyramid 2, what we have to identify, so we know how can we print all these spaces over here. So it's quite clear that the formula to identify the space is row minus I, what we had done in this problem over here. So in the very first iteration, when I is 1, total number of spaces will be 5 minus 1. This is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And what will be the total number of star we are printing in the very first iteration? It's 1 only. We will move on to the next iteration, and the total number of spaces will be row minus I. Rows are 5. 5 minus I is 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. And how many stars are we printing? We are printing 3 stars over here. We will move on in the third iteration. What will be the total number of spaces? 5 minus 3, it will be 2. And how many stars are we printing over here? 5. In the fourth iteration, row minus I means we will have one space over here. And how many stars are we printing over here? we are printing 7 stars. In the fifth iteration, what will be the space? 5 minus 5, it will be 0. And how many stars are we printing? We are printing 9 stars over here. So now, if you can clearly see, the difference between each row is 2, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So difference between the number of stars in each row is 2. So what we can do, if you can see, if we are in the first iteration, we are printing 1 star. So that means if I multiplied this row by 2, what will I get? Means with a row means current iteration. What I will get? I will get 2 into 1, which is 2. And how many stars do I need? I need 1. So that means I have to subtract 1 from here. So that means 2 into 1 is equal to 2 minus 1. I need 1 star in the first iteration. So when the iterations are increasing, so in the second iteration, how many stars do I need? I need 3 stars. So that means 2 multiplied by current iteration, which is 2 over here minus 1. 2 twos are 4 minus 1. This is our 3. We will move on. 3 twos are 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. We need 5 star in the next iteration. In the fourth iteration, again I need 4 twos are 8. 8 minus 1, I need 7 stars. So in the last iteration, I need 5 multiplied by 2 minus 1, which is 9. So that means the only difference between these two pyramid is printing the value of star. So how I will print star to get this pyramid? This will be 2 into I minus 1. So that's the only change between these two pyramid. So now the only change that we need is 2 into current iteration minus 1. That's the only change. So let's execute this program and we'll see the output on console. And this is here what we need. 1, 3, 5. Because this is a huge pyramid, let me decrease the size and execute it again. So this is the second pyramid that we were supposed to print. For our first iteration, if the value of I is 1, what we are doing, we will enter into this loop, and this loop is starting from 1. 1 will go up to where? Row minus I. Row is 5 in our case, I is 1, so we will go up to 4. So that means 1 is less than 4, condition is true, we will enter over here and we will print 1 space. Now the value of space will be increased, it will become 2, and 2 is less than 4, so we will print space again. The value of space will be increased, it will become 3, and 3 is less than 4. Since condition is true, we will again print space. Now value of space will be increased, it will become 4, and 4 is exactly equal to 4 since we are using the equal to sign over here. So condition is true, we will print this space over here. The value of space will be increased, it will go to 5, but 5 is greater than 4. So condition is false. We will be out from this code block. Now we will be in the next code block. So we are starting from 1 and going till where? 2 into I. What is the value of I? It's 1. 2 into 1, 1 minus 1. Sorry, 2 minus 1. It will be 1. So condition is true. 1 is exactly equal to 1. Condition is true and we are printing star over here. So next time value of j will be increased, it will be 2. 2 is less than, or 2 is greater than or less than or equal to 1. No, this condition is not getting satisfied. We will be out from this loop and we will be in the next statement. And this is println, which is throwing our cursor into the next line. So now we are done with this code block. The value of I will be increased from here and the value I will be 2. So now the loop will go, this space will go from 1 to 5 minus 2, 1, 2, 3. So how many stars will we print? We will print, sorry, how many spaces will we print? 1, 2, and 3. And then we will print star, spaces. After spaces, we will print the star. And then how many spaces will, sorry, how many stars will we print? We are starting from 2. So that means this will be reset. We will start from 1. We will go 2 into 2, 4. 4 minus 1, 3. So we will print 3 stars over here. This statement will print 3 stars. And now we are in the next statement. We will throw cursor into the next line. I will be incremented. I will be 3. And we have 3 over here. Spaces will again reset from 1 to space minus I. I is 3. The 5 minus 3, we will go up to 2. We will print 2 spaces over here. We are in the next code block then. And in the next code block again, we will print 3 into 2, 6 minus 1. We will go up to 5 and we will print 5 stars over here. Similarly, we will be in the next line. We'll throw our cursor and so on. So this is how this pyramid will be executed. So I hope it's clear. So just take pen and paper and try to draw each and every step one by one. So you will definitely get it. So our next problem is printing a diamond. So this is very similar to pyramid. So as you can see, this is our pyramid. And what we are doing, we are just reversing this pyramid. So in the very first half, what we are doing, we are increasing the value of stars, means the number of stars that we are printing that are being increased in the first half, but in the second half these stars are decreasing. We are going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, but over here we are going from 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, and 2 to 1. So that's the only difference. Means over here, if we'll keep printing these stars, we reach up to this point, means we are done with the pyramid, then just reverse it. So I'll give you a quick idea how to do it. Rest is your assignment. So now if you can see this pyramid over here, I'll, whatever you want, you can print the previous pyramid as well, or if you want you can keep it over here. So just to double check, let me execute it so I can see the pyramid clearly over here. So now, so what I will do, I will use the same code, but the only difference is I have to decrease from here. That means I have to start from the maximum value and keep decreasing over here. So what I will do, I will start this iteration from total number of rows. I'll keep decreasing until I is greater than or equal to 1, because last star will be 1 and this will be minus minus. That means we are doing the same thing, but we are not decreasing our rows. So one slight edge case over here is, let me execute it first, then I'll let you know. So the edge case was these two rows are same. So this should be slightly less than the above row. So what does it mean? This should be one less than the above row. So what I'll do for that, I'll start from row minus 1. So this will be, so this row will be one less than this row. Let me execute it again. So here is our diamond shape. So to have a clear look, let me increase the size. So this is our diamond shape. So I hope this video was very helpful for you. So one request that I want from you guys is just take pen and paper, just try to draw or trace each step one by one so that you get the clear understanding of these loops.